Hello.
Hi, ma'am. How are
Hi ma'am,
you?
how are you doing?
Great, and you?
We're all doing great.
Doing great, ma'am.
Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, you too, ma'am.
So, do we get started with the meeting?
What?
Can we get started with the meeting?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So, first of all, hi, ma'am. Hope you're doing great. And thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today. We're really excited to have you here. And as you know, we are like a group of high school students from India working on a project called Behind the Scenes, which explores on the environmental and social impacts of fast fashion. And before we begin, we would just wanted to check if it would be all right if we could record this meeting.
Yeah.
It's just for internal reference and for our presentations mostly.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. So just to quickly introduce ourselves, I'm Angelina, and I'll be leading today's conversation. And there is Grinesh and Hemadri who will be asking you a few questions. So let's get started with the questions, I guess. So to get to know you, to get to know more about you, could you please provide us an overview of your educational background, and the timeline of your studies?
Yeah. I did my bachelor's in civil and environmental engineering back in Kazakhstan in Nazarbayev University, and then I did my master's. I finished it this year in environmental contamination and toxicology here in Europe.
Thank you, ma'am. I would request Hematri to ask the next question.
That was excellent, ma'am. So, could you explain what inspired you to tell us to keep up this cause, and what was the purpose or an experience that you faced, and what pushed you towards this field?
Mm. Um, So my family comes from the Aral Sea. It's the region in Kazakhstan where a huge environmental disaster took place. So the Aral Sea was once of the largest lakes in the world, but unfortunately, due to human mismanagement, we lost 90% of it. So only 10% of its lake of this lake is left. Of course, it led to a lot of bad consequences, a huge loss of biodiversity. Of course, the climate changes because when there is no water, the climate will change, of course. Um, yeah, there were a lot of health impact. Also, people were suffering. There's a lot of diseases like cancer, allergies, asthma, yeah, different things like that. And of course, that was like the first reason for me to be interested in environmental science because I wanted to protect these spaces and never let these huge environmental disasters to happen in future. So I really wanted to be in the field of environment, and I really liked science. So for me, it was easy to choose the environmental science. Um, yeah, I think that was the reason. And also, what was the other question?
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
Like your experience or a particular moment about what inspired you, especially.
yeah, I think that's the first thing, the biggest thing.
Ma'am, can you please
That's really
explain
inspiring, ma'am.
further on the bad consequences? We would like to know more about it.
Yeah, of course. If I'm talking about the environmental impact and environmental consequences, of course, when there is no water, all the fish, all the different fish and birds and other animals that were feeding on this lake or even living in this lake, they don't have a home anymore. And that was like a huge the biodiversity loss that we had. Also, water acts as a buffer, um, as a buffer zone when there's like any harsh how to say, any harsh weather. For example, if it's too hot, then the water takes some heat and it's not that hot, or when it's super windy, yeah, water can take some of the wind, so it can act as a buffer and make the harsh weather a bit milder. But when you again don't have the water, you don't have this the ability of the water to take this harsh weathers. And of course, we started to have more sandstorms, a lot of harsh heat, very hot summers. Yeah, that was one of these things. And because of the sandstorms, and sand is not only contains sand, because also there were a lot of different chemicals in the water. And now that the water has evaporated, all these chemicals, they got on top of the sand. And whenever we had a sandstorm, this sand with all the different chemicals was spread around the region, and that's why we have a huge rate of lung diseases, asthma, allergies. For example, in my family, we all have allergies. My father, my sister, they have asthma. I had different relatives with cancer. So yeah, it's not only something that I read about, but something that I experienced firsthand. Yeah, and of course, like this lake was a huge source of income and food for people because they were feeding on fish. And now again, you don't have this water, so you don't have this source of income and source of your food, which also is a huge loss for us. Yeah, that's basically some of the things.
Thank you, ma'am. Sorry to hear about your family.
Thank
Uh, so we all, as far as we have researched, fast fashion often relies on relies greatly on synthetic fabrics and polyesters and nylons and such. So could you please explain on how these materials contribute like more towards the microplastic pollution and why this is like a major concern across the whole fashion industry?
you. Yeah, that's true. Nowadays, a lot of clothing is the clothing industry is like 70% of it already is synthetic. And synthetic, when it comes to synthetic, it's usually plastic. So, like polyester, as you said, nylon, and stuff like this. And of course, if it's a plastic, it's going to shed microplastics. And fashion is like one of the huge contributors to microplastic and plastic pollution, because yeah, again, the waste is enormous, and almost like 70% of it is plastic, so of course it's going to shed a lot of microplastics. So yeah, it contributes a lot to the problem, alongside with other plastic things like packaging or tires. But fashion is also a very huge contributor to microplastic pollution. If you read any papers about that, you will see that clothing, like washing clothes in the washing, like laundry, is like creating almost like a million of microplastic per just per one wash. And if you multiply it by so many people that we have, yeah, it's going to be a huge number.
Yes, ma'am. We do agree with you. Thank you, ma'am. And have you faced any like resistance or challenges while you have faced that you have faced personally when spreading these type of awarenesses or these type of information to the public about microplastic pollution and such?
Yeah, of course, because microplastic is still a very new and very young topic. So people are still not very well educated about that. So of course, there's a lot of resistance, from people. They don't know much about it. They don't know why it can be bad, why it can be a bad thing for the environment, or for their health. So sometimes there's a lot of skepticism there. And it's a very difficult topic as well, because it's not something that is very easy to understand. It's not something that you learn at school or something like that. Like with the waste, you for example, if you say like waste is bad, or like consuming too much energy is bad, it's something that is logical and you would understand. But with microplastics, it's a very different thing. So of course, yeah, it's difficult. to even first explain the problem in the first place. So I think that's like one of the main issues for me. Also, there's a lot of information about microplastics, and there's still so many things that we yet as microplastic scientists we don't know. So yeah, of course, there's a lot of if people ask questions, sometimes you don't even have an answer to that because you simply don't know yet. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
That was really insightful, ma'am. So my next question to you is, from your research and perspective, what are some lesser known facts, fast fashion facts, or ways it impacts the ecosystem, especially in terms of water pollution or microplastic shedding?
Mm. So what people don't really know about that, right? Or don't really
Yeah,
discuss.
something which
Mm.
is not really popular.
So yeah, it can be quite confusing even to memorize all these material names. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. What advice would you give to like young consumers like us, who want to start recycling or
Be super affordable, and it can be quite difficult. So there should be a trade-off. I would say try to stay true to yourself. So trends are, I don't know, it's not your personality sometimes. So it would be nice to try and focus on yourself and focus on other things, and then maybe fashion can come second or third or fourth. And of course, trying to be as sustainable and mindful with fashion, so not to like fall to every trend that exists, and maybe trying to go secondhand, for example, or swap clothing with your friends or something like this, which is way much more mindful and I think even much funnier, but more fun this way. So yeah.
that was really interesting, ma'am. Also, as you've done a lot of research in this field, have you any found or have you any recent are there any recent findings or studies on microplastic pollution that you find very particularly alarming or surprising?
Mm. One of the alarming ones, to be honest, is one of the recent findings about microplastic hindering the photosynthesis. So, microplastic can be uptaken by plants, and when they are in plants, they can block the sunlight, and we need sunlight for photosynthesis. But if you're blocking the sunlight, the photosynthesis will reduce, and because of the reduction of photosynthesis, we can also lose a lot of food because you will not have any yield without photosynthesis, and that's something that is alarming. But at the same time, they provide some hope If we just reduce our plastic consumption by 13%, then we can reduce the food shortages by 30%. So I think, yeah, it's very sad. It's very overwhelming, but at the same time, if we do something about it, then we'll not have a lot of problems.
Also, ma'am, could you walk us through how a single fast fashion item, such as polyester, how does it contribute to pollution from production to disposal?
So for the production, first, this plastic it comes from the petrochemical industry, so from oil industry, and we know that is not a good industry for the planet and for the environment, and that's where it comes from crude oil. Um, there, it should be how to say, should be taken and undergone some chemical processes. It also requires energy and can pollute water, because you need to add a lot of different chemicals. So polyester, so the plastic will have all the properties that you want. For example, if you want it to be against fire, so you put some flame retardants, for example, and that can also pollute the water, pollute the air. After that, when you have already the finished product, then you have some transportation that will also contribute a bit to the pollution. And then after you sold the thing, every time you wash it or just wear it, it will release microplastics that also contributes to the pollution, especially pollution of water. And then once you discard of it, it can take like hundreds of years to just to decompose. And while it decomposes, it also releases microplastics and nanoplastics into the environment. Yeah.
So, ma'am, finally, I have two more questions left. Maybe we can make them into sub questions. Firstly, we know that synthetic fabrics like polyester shed microplastics, and are there any innovations or alternatives being developed to reduce this issue while maintaining the affordability for the brands?
To be honest, I don't think so. And I don't see the how to say the advantage of making plastic not shed microplastic. I mean, you will use something more that will probably pollute either water or air to produce that, and that only to reduce the microplastic rate. And I wouldn't say that's that important because it will release microplastics in the end anyways. So when it comes to plastic, I don't think there's really something done to make it better. The only thing I would think about is switching to natural fabrics and making them a bit less expensive. And that's the only thing I can think of that is better for the environment.
Ma'am, or else is there like any other way which or any other machine which filters out microplastic from the water, from the remaining water from the washed clothes? So is there like a way where it can be fixed to our washing machines which can filter out microplastics
Yeah,
altogether? So
yeah. There are definitely some companies that are starting producing like special filters for washing machine that um, catch the microplastics. But for me, I wouldn't say it's the best solution. Like, it's not the solution to the problem. It's just, I don't know,
prevention.
like
Prevention.
yeah, like preventing it from going into um, into the environment, and you just take it and put it into the landfill. So, I mean, it's better in terms of, okay, it's not in the environment, but the landfills is also in the environment, and there is a possibility for it to leach somewhere. So it's a good thing, but not the best thing, you know.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And ma'am, how sustainable or how strong enough do you think banana fibers or like bamboo fibers or clothes made of those two primary sources would be better or would be good enough if common public started using it?
I think yes, why not? It's a good solution for first like bio waste, and then you also have clothing. I think one of the first thing that we need to solve is the overconsumption problem, with people buying too much of clothing, of course, because even if we start producing clothing from good materials like banana fibers or anything or cotton, but we'll still consume a lot of this clothing, then for sure even producing them from good materials will be then detrimental to the environment. So I think first thing is like solving the overconsumption problem, so people only buy clothes, so much clothes, how much they need. And then second is like only having good materials like banana fiber.
So is there like or has there been any company which has come forward to prevent overconsumption of clothes or such?
Mm, not really companies. I think it's only like either just people like influencers talking about like how overconsumption is bad for the planet, and maybe like governmental programs that also try to make people be more mindful towards their consumption. But I don't think there's like a single company that targets the overconsumption problem itself.
Okay, thank you.
I have a follow-up question to that. My follow-up question is, are there any youth-led movements or campaigns in this field or space that you find powerful or inspiring?
I think there are, but I'm not aware of them, to be honest. I'm sorry.
Ma'am, last question of the day. So there are many fashion brands that have launched conscious or eco fashion. So from your point of view, what do you think of these initiatives, and do they really create an impact, or is it just mostly greenwashing?
To be honest, my opinion is mostly greenwashing. It's just for the brands to make it seem to other people that they are doing something good. But honestly, especially if it's something like Zara or H&M, which we all know is are not good brands for the planet and for the people as well, then I think it's mainly greenwashing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This was a really insightful um conversation. We had a really insightful conversation with you, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. This would really add depth to our project and help us understand a broader impact of fashion in a whole new way. We'll keep you posted once our project is published, or like we're sharing any of the information that you've shared with us. And also, we would really love to help for you to help us if you know anyone working in areas related to fast fashion, microplastics, or in the sustainability line, whether they are researchers, activists, or people in the industry in general, we'd love to reach out to them and learn from them too. It would really help us expand our perspective.
Of course, I will think of them, and yeah, I will send everything. Thank you so much for having me. I hope
So much,
it
ma'am.
was helpful for you. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.